Hello all, welcome to oratrainings.com. In this session, we'll discuss about some of the basic action elements in the integration cloud service, which are pretty much used in every integration which you generally come across. So these are the list of action elements which are covered in this particular demo. So the first one is notification. So whenever you want to send a notification or nothing, but whenever you want to send an email from ICS, we'll be using this particular notification action. The next one is switch action or the switch condition, which is generally available in all the most of the programming languages. It acts similar to an if-else condition. So if condition one is true, it will go to one loop. If condition two, if else, let us say, assume that there are two conditions. If condition A is true, it will go to one particular line. And if it is condition, if it is next condition, it will go to next line. So that's how it's nothing but it will have two conditions, either if or else. That's how it works. Next functionality is JavaScript custom functions. So the only programming language which is used in this particular one, if at all if required, is JavaScript. So using JavaScript, we can write custom functions which we generally use for the purpose of like transformation purpose or from calculation purpose, which cannot be achieved within the ICS. We can make use of JavaScript. So this JavaScript you have to write on your own, like I mean to say, like using your custom editors, like a Notepad++, or any of the integration development and IDEs which you generally use it. You can just design the JavaScript functions, and those JavaScript libraries can be uploaded into the ICS, and you can make use of those particular JavaScript functions in the ICS. Next one is logger. So this logger functionality is similar to the normal system.out.println or dbms out.println and other programming language like PL SQL kind of thing. So we use this for this particular logger for the purpose of validating some set of information, like when you want to design some complex logic, right? So you want to understand whether what was the value at this point of time for this variable, so that you want to handle in a proper way. That's how we use logger purpose. And note, it is mostly like a commenting or a placeholder purpose to just consider the full future course of action to be done. I mean to say, like let us say when you're dealing with any of the integration development, so you may not get all the functionalities during your development time, right? So gradually you'll get lot number of clarity, and you will get good amount of functionality to be achieved. So initially, to just what you can do is, you can just, rather than implementing everything, you can just keep some placeholders so that you will not forget, or you will understand like what to be done at what point of time. Or you can mention some set of comments so that you will understand your logic when you check it later point of time also. Scope, it is almost, it's like this is for the purpose of multiple purposes. Like one purpose is like, if you want to have this own fault handler for your logic, then you can make use of scope. And other thing also, like let us say when you have a very very complex logic, what you can do is, like, you can divide your coding into set of scopes so that you can easily consider them implementing in a proper manner. So this is the final sample which we have achieved, like which I've designed considering these all set of elements. So here, if you observe, this is a REST-based sample which considers a particular payload and provides a proper response. So now here, if you observe, let me show you the request what it takes, so that we'll understand like what to be covered in this one, right? So in the action sample, so if you observe the notification, let me open, yeah. So here, okay, so this is a request which I'm considered for this particular integration. So it is having 4 parameters: customer email, invoice type, amount, and country. And response here, if you observe, you're getting the same set of 4 elements which you are providing. And also, but one extra thing, like a supervisor discount tags have not implemented, but I'm like that's how you can try to achieve some set of response if you want to implement a feature. But as of now, what I just implemented is a providing an extra element called supervisor based on the invoice type. Like, you will get a supervisor as API supervisor or AR supervisor. So this kind of transformation logic I have achieved using the lookup. Okay, so we'll just see like how we implement the lookup also. So now let me just traverse through the functionality of this particular integration so that we'll understand what we have implemented in this one. Okay, so let me go to my integration. So yeah, okay, I'll just deactivate and okay. So here, if you observe, the connection, the REST-based connection which I have used for this particular sample is Aura Trainings REST connection. So I'll just show you the connection first. I'll just search with Aura, right? So this was a connection which I've used. You can just see that integration which it is used, ICS action sample. I'll just open this. Okay, so there is nothing in this. The type is REST. and invoke action type as trigger. Okay, just close. Now go back to our integration sample, integration, ICS action samples. Now let's traverse through this particular sample. So, and then later we'll just try to invoke it and see what are we can achieve using this one. Okay, so the first thing is we have to this app driven orchestration. So I've just considered the connection based on the REST connection which I have shown you. Now let me just see the set of like parameters which I'm passing to this integration and what is the response we are getting. So here if you observe the first thing, the basic information. So the invoice, this particular action description name of this particular action name is publish invoice details, and if you see this resource configuration, there is nothing here, and the type is the action type which I want to perform consider for this particular invocation as put, and also I'm passing a request payload and also I'm getting the response payload. Observe carefully. So whenever you type the action as put, then only you can add up the request payload. If you want to just retrieve something, then you have to use get, and you can just make it the first one. Okay, so based on your endpoint action, the way you send the parameters will also differ. So we have to you have to consider these logic very carefully. Now coming to the request payload. So in the request payload, if you observe the JSON sample, the inline set of thing which I'm passing to this one, I'm just passing the 4 parameters here. Okay, country, customer email, invoice type, amount, and country. Now similarly, if you just take the response, it is almost similar one, but only thing is we have 2 extra parameters. One is supervisor, other one is discount tax. Okay, so what we have done so far, like for this particular connection, the action type is put, and also we just consider the appropriate set of parameters, configure a request payload as well as configure the response payload. Okay, request payload, response payload, and the summary. Now the next one is here. If you observe the switch condition, so what I've done is, so in the switch condition, I just considered if the invoice type is AP or AR. So I'm just considering that there are 2 invoice types. So based on that, I've implemented the logic. Okay, so here if you observe, I'll just click on this edit. So here if you observe, the invoice type is equal to AP. If invoice type is equal to AP, so this first particular logic will be executed. Similarly, so otherwise, I just consider otherwise. So if invoice type is other than AP, this will come to the second condition. Okay, so in the first condition, first if you are observed, so what I'm doing is the second particular action element which I've considered here is a mapping. So after the switch condition is done, the second one what I'm doing is like based on the invoice type, get the invoice meaning, but from where I'm getting this invoice meaning, it is from the lookup. So before proceeding further, let me show you the lookup also. I'll just say save. It's okay. Now go to lookup, invoice type. So here I have 3 particular DVM elements: invoice code, invoice type. I mean to say invoice type is nothing but code, meaning, and supervisor. So if the invoice type is AP, the meaning is payable invoice, and the supervisor name is AP supervisor. And for discount also, you can implement discount here. Let us say if I just add up here, and for AP invoice, I'll just say the discount is 5%, and if for AR invoice, I just say discount is 10%. Okay, so in business wise, this particular logic may not be having any proper value, but you can make use of these things according to your business requirement. Okay, this is all hypothetical information which I'm just considering. So now close. I added one more particular domain here, right? Now go back to integration. So go back to our integration. Yeah. So now what we can do, you can also get the invoice discount also now. Okay, so now what I can do is I'll just click on discount. I mean this mapping. So I just create one. I can create one more variable. Okay. So here we can change the variable name, or you can just ignore like that. Let it be. I'll just say data type is going default value. Okay. So now click on functions, right? What I want to do is based on the invoice type, I want to get the discount percentage. Okay. So get lookup value, drag and drop the lookup value. Click on next. What is the source? Select the lookup code. Okay. And our target is that fourth one which we added, domain name 4. Now click on next. Let's say the default value is AP. So I'll just select like this AP. Now done. And here there is one more element we have to pass it, right? So the source value. So in this instead of source value, what you have to do, we have to pass invoice type. Okay. So just drag and drop the source value here. Okay. Validate. That's it. So now this particular second variable in the assignment, this one get invoice type meaning assignment to operator is having the discount value also. Click on validate and close. Okay. So later in the response, we can make use of this particular one. Okay. Because in the response here, if you observe the sample which I invoked using my SOAP UI, I don't have this particular discount as of now. But now we added discount in the lookup so that we can send in the response also. Okay. Now the other one is send an email. So click on this one. So send an email can be achieved by using a which component notification. Here, if you observe, I just mouse over on that. It is providing all the information. What is the action type? It is notification from email to email, subject, message, and amount. All these are available in this one, right? Just click on edit and you can see the logic I implemented here. So here, if you observe, the from element, the from email, it's nothing but the user, the email which we provided, and two also similar one. Invoice type is also similar one. So invoice type here, if you observe, what are we doing? So invoice type I'm getting from the lookup. So here, this particular element which I mentioned here. So this is a parameter, right? So this is a parameter which I created within the send an email. So now I'll add up one more parameter. So for our understanding purpose. So if at all, if you want to mention the dynamic elements in the email, this is how we can do it. I'll just say parameter name is discount value, and what is the parameter name is discount value. The value which we have to fetch it. So I want to fetch this particular value from the assignment to which we created just now. The mapping, the assignment to mapping which we created just now. Okay, you can have appropriate naming conventions so that you'll not face issues. So now what I can say is, okay, I want to show this value discount percentage is discount value, like this you can mention. Okay, similarly you can make use of any of these particular set of mapping parameters in your emails and all those things. So here, if you observe, you can't type any of in these fields. You have to select from the mapping only from the XPath expression. So click on this edit. Now here, if you observe the invoice type, okay, this invoice type, the one which we are getting from the input parameter, that's what I have considered. Okay, if you want to consider the meaning also, if you want to let us, instead of considering this one, what I can do is I'll just want to consider the invoice type meaning. I'll just drag and drop like this. So this mapping will be displayed in the subject when you invoke this email. Okay, now click on validate always. Validate and save is important whenever you're dealing with this particular integration sample. Save it. And now the next action element is logger, right? So this logging is just generally for the purpose of, providing some insights for you while debugging. Here, the message which I consider is sample log message concatenated by my integration name. Okay, so there are some set of values which are provided by the ICS for the developer purpose to validate their integration information. So here, if you observe in the functions, okay, in the integration cloud, if you observe carefully, there are a few set of things which are important only for the integration cloud information, right? Okay, these are all mathematical operators, and these are the functions which are available. So here, if you observe the integration one, integration name, this was the one which we considered. Integration name, identifier version. There are other things also you can get it from the instance ID. Okay, service name. There are a lot number of things you can achieve. You can get from this particular set of the self tag. Okay, validate and close. And now this is a first flow where the invoice type is AP, right? Similarly, if you observe the second one, so in the second flow, and here what are we doing? We are getting the dynamic subject for the invoice type. So if the invoice type is not AP, I'm getting the subject using a function, JavaScript function which I created. So let me show the JavaScript function which I created. So invoice type email subject. If the invoice type is AP, the subject is this one, payable invoice for supplier. The invoice type is non-AP, then the invoice subject is receivable invoice for the customer. Here, if you observe, I have implemented this functionality only for the AR invoice, non-AP invoice, I mean to say. If the invoice type is not AP, then only I implemented this particular subject. Okay. Now, similarly, sending the email notification and the note. So this note is just generally a dummy placeholder. Okay. This is generally we use it for the purpose of mentioning some important information when you're implementing the logic. And finally, coming to the mapping one. So click on this mapping, and this is a response which you want to provide as an output to the calling functionality. Now here, if you observe, as of now, we have not implemented the discount tags functionality. I'll just click on this discount tags, and discount, we observe that we want to retrieve it from the variable which we have designed, right? The tracking variable, the mapping variable, right? So here, if you observe, that is no more available here, that mapping one. So that particular discount tags was not available here. What I can do is, we can implement the integration cloud functionality, lookup value. There are a number of ways of achieving it. Okay. So now I'll just say invoice type, select this one, next, select source one, select source type as code, and target what we want to get. We want to get the discount domain name 4, and always give the default value, else it will give an exception. Next, next, and done. So always you have to map the source also. By default, it will not consider the source. So from where are you getting the source? Source I'm getting from the input parameter invoice type. So drag and drop on the source here. That's it. So now this is what it is returning. It is written like for the invoice type lookup, it is considering the code, and this code is compared to the invoice type, and it is returning a value called domain name value 4, and AP, the last one, is a default value. Okay, so that's how it is working. Click on save and close. Close. And also make sure that you give the appropriate business identifier. Okay, let me call validate and close. Save and close. Okay. Now in the scope, I have not added any of the business logic there. It's just a dummy placeholder I mentioned. Okay. Enable tracing, enable this one, include payload, and activate. Okay. Now once we get the URL, click on this. Cool. So here, if you observe, this was the request payload, and this is a response payload, and this is the endpoint URL. Okay. So if you want to invoke this particular one, this REST integration from the SOAP UI or a Postman, what you have to do? Just consider this particular REST endpoint URL. So I'll just open it for you again, rather than considering the existing one. Okay. I'll click on REST connection, give the endpoint URL. Okay. Mention the method as put, because that's what we have designed, and also provide the request payload, which we consider for this particular one. So this was my request payload. And now we make sure that you mention the authorization details, else it will not work. Okay. Now invoke it, and let's see what it provides. Okay. 1 minute. Click on JSON. Yep. Perfect. Invoice type was AP, that's why it gave the discount as 5. And supervisor also, it provided AP supervisor because the input type was AP. So similarly, if you try, let us say, I'll just see discount as like 9,000, amount as 9,000, and the invoice type is AR, and you can just observe the response here, what you get it. Okay, I'll just invoke it again. You have to get AR supervisor, and discount is 10%, right? So this how you'll get it. And also what you can do, you should able to receive the emails. Now here, if you observe the receivable invoice for customers, right? Maybe it will take some time to get refreshed. These are old mails actually. Okay, let's wait for a few seconds. You should be able to receive the emails. Now, before that, let me show you the map, show you this particular one, like what do you call the monitoring one? Let's say I'll go to monitoring, click on tracking, right? And here, if you observe, let us observe for the AR, and just observe the flow it went on, because the type was AR, it went to the second flow, right? So it went here, and went into mapping also, the green one. And you can just click the activity stream, and you can get everything at each level, what is happening, what was the input and what was the output. So by this, we can easily observe, okay, what was the value which it got passed from input to till output. Now let us say, if you want to find out, okay, let's expand here. Okay, can you see the email? This was the email content which it is expecting. Okay, if you see the final response, you should be able to see all the payload which we are getting from the response. So this is for the AR invoice. Similarly, if you observe for the AP invoice, click on that. AP invoice, invoice type is AP. Okay, click on the log, activity stream. You can see all the information now. Okay, notification here, if you observe the discount percentage, you're able to see in the AP invoice, right? And here, let's see whether if you have received. Yeah, can you see? You have received the payable invoice, and we have seen the discount also. And similarly, here, if you observe the subject for the AR invoice is just mentioned as receivable invoice for customer. This receivable invoice for customer was achieved using a JavaScript functionality which we have done. So here, if you observe like how I have done the JavaScript functionalities, so this was a custom JavaScript function which was designed. Okay, it just the function name is get email subject, and the input parameter name is invoice type, and you just have two conditions, if and else, and return the email subject based on the invoice type. And once you have done the JavaScript function, what you have to do is you have to go to your integration designer, go to library, and you just need to upload it. Okay, so here if you observe, this was the one which I uploaded, or I can show you one more existing. Let us say I'll just try to upload version 2 so that you'll understand what we have to do when you are creating any JavaScript function. I'll just upload now, register, select the function. Okay, select the library name, identifier, everything. Now it is asking like the function name. So I have only one function in this particular JavaScript library. Just select this one, and here make sure that you select the orchestration classification type as orchestration. So automatically it will provide the input name as well as output parameter name and the data type. Okay, and click on save. So once this is done, if it is successful, you can make use of this particular JavaScript functions in the integration. It should be in a green color. It means that your particular JavaScript function is ready for use. Okay, so once your particular integration is ready, let us say if you have any change in your JavaScript, still what you can do is, it doesn't need to delete it. What you can do is just click on your consider your JavaScript library, and you just have an update functionality here. You can just click on update, and it will allow you to reload it. Now I just clicked on update. Now click on browse, and you can reload the same JavaScript function. Sometimes what may happen is your business logic which you have implemented in the JavaScript requires a change. What you can do is just reload it, reload the latest version. That's how we can try to achieve it. Okay. Now go back to the integration, and the status is active, right? So if you want to edit anything, you have to deactivate it, and you can edit it again, reactivate it, and then you can perform the changes. Okay, so this is how we can implement a very simple integration using all the activities. So far here, if you observe, what all we covered is like we have covered all these particular activities in our functionality scope. We have not done any of the thing because like here, if you observe, the scope one also is done, but I have not implemented any business logic inside it. I just had a placeholder, a simple scope. Inside that I just had a mapping. I'll just show you that also. So here, if you observe the scope, this is scope one. Okay, so this is scope. There is nothing implemented here. And one more important thing is like when you are dealing with integration, first of all, what we have done is I have shown you that like we have created this particular sample which is of type app-driven orchestration based on the REST integration. So whenever you create any integration, so like when you, let us say when you have done the integration, when you have created the integration based on the app-driven orchestration, the first thing what you do is you'll select the connection, the trigger connection. Once you select the trigger connection, this is how it look like, right? So here, this is how it looks like. So whatever the mapping as well as the final written one, which will have it, that should not be touched at all. I mean to say like those particular, the final mapping has to be updated at last once you have finished your business logic here. Okay. So what are the business logic which you have it should be between the first connection as well as between the first mapping. So here, if you observe the sample, right? So in our case, this was my trigger connection, and this was the final mapping, right? So all the logic should be in between these two things. So this is a pretty much important one we have to consider. Okay. So this is all about the list sample actions in the ICS. Thank you.